When words of love are too difficult to be spoken, when letters we want to share are only stored in drawers, or when SMS messages are just never sent, things that should have been easy to be delivered are just very hard to do, especially to those that we have strong feelings towards. In life, there is at least one happy or unforgettable moment of love in which a person never wants to let go, and he or she replays it in their mind so it will never disappear with time. Anime director Makoto Shinkai's 2007 film 5 centimeters per second explores the positives and negatives of clinging on to the moments of love in years of time. Welcome guys to my re-review of 5 centimeters per second. 5 centimeters per second is a 3-part movie that takes place in the early 1990s and ends in present day of 2008. Part 1 is called Cherry Blossom, Part 2 Kazuna, and Part 3, apparently enough, 5 centimeters per second. The story follows a young boy named Takaki Toono as he struggles to come to grips with his feelings for his childhood friend Akari Shinohara, and how his feelings of indecision, anxiety, and longing affects of those around him, including a girl who has a crush on him. This film took the elements of fiction and fact and brought them together in one of the best pieces I've ever seen. While you can still see the bond between these two friends, you realize that life doesn't just work out. The struggles that Takaki had to go through felt so real that I began to wonder how often this actually happens. Watching two friends get torn apart by issues they can't avoid was heart-wrenching. It wasn't only the overall story that got to me either. Every single scene of the movie had great significance. At no point did I think that there was a pointless scene or useless dialogue. The way they split up the movie into 3 parts was actually a brilliant idea. By going through the key moments of Taki's life while filling in the blanks made me really attached to all the characters through this simple format of storytelling. The simplicity kept the story relatable, while the events made it memorable. Some may find faults in the story, as I did, such as why did they just drive to each other when they were older? Why can't he just move on? Or what made them stop writing letters considering that they still check constantly? I asked the same questions over and over again, yet I never really got an answer. The character lineup for this movie is rather small and only consists of 2 main characters and 1 secondary character that mainly is shown throughout the second act. The first person we're introduced to is the one we follow throughout the series, is Takaki Toono, and we first meet him as he is just a typical transfer student leading an everyday life until he encounters his fellow transfer student Akari Shinohara in elementary school. Akari is your typical girl who transfers into Taki's class on the same day and grows close to him as they share very similar traits. Eventually, the pair grows apart and we are left with Taki moving from day to day thinking about what might have been and diving deep into his sadness over losing Akari. One thing that the creators did extremely well in the second and third act was show how Taki's despair and longing for Akari affects other girls he encounters, such as the surfer girl Akane and an unnamed girl in the final act of the movie, which for some reason I really do believe that's also Kanai. They all have a desire to be with them, but in their own way, each girl, or mainly Kanai, sees that there is someone else in his mind and in his heart. In a way, that's what I love about the females in this series. They're still emotional and feel things, or at least, again, Kanai is the one who feels things. But unlike Taki, she, or they, each find a way to stay strong and move on with their lives. What immediately strikes you when you watch 5 centimeters per second is just how stunning the film is. The animation is of the highest standard and considerably give Studio Ghibli a run for its money. If you pause the film at certain moments, the frame looks more like a piece of art than just an anime still. From the snow falling at the beginning to the glorious night sky of the middle section, 5 centimeters per second is lovely animated and is worth watching more than once just to catch every little detail that has been painstakingly drawn in. So take my word for it that when I say that this movie had a soundtrack that was a blessing to my ears, which was composed by Shinkai's longtime collaborator, Tomon. I am a huge fan of the piano, and by far the ending theme made my night. Its melancholy melody took me to another world. The lyrics to One More Time, One More Chance really spoke to me, and it fits the movie perfectly. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the piano version as well, and even if you don't know the lyrics, you can feel the passion and the heartache Tomon is trying to convey with all the production value soundtrack in this film. This film is all about atmosphere, and the music perfectly complements this, combining with the animation to convey a truly unique experience. To call this movie a great movie is really an understatement, and with a hint of personal bias, there's really no question that I clearly embrace this film. It is a movie that will require a second or a third viewing, and perhaps giving a different perspective and meaning each time. This is a film that can affect people, remind them, and how the audience reacts will depend on very much their own intangible past and memories. As a whole, 5 centimeters per second was really nice. The art was top-notch, and the story, despite confusing and open to multiple interpretations, is capable of touching hearts. The background music that accompanies the movie is top-notch too, and stories with romance as the theme don't always end up with a firm ending where both protagonists get married and live happily ever after, but instead 5 centimeters per second leaves the story open-ended. That gives the viewer a chance to imagine their own interpretation toward the last 10 minutes this movie gives us. The message it intends to pass on is that one should let go and forget about one's past relationship and the feeling, so that he or she could move forward, as those who we meet would eventually separate one day, even for those who are lovers. Because in this anime it is a love story where none of the characters are ever able to find their love, all the love that they carry is unrequited, either because of the circumstance outside their control or because their inability to let themselves find happiness. The film is so touching because it is so accurately able to sum up and express an experience that every person has gone through, even myself, showing the sort of beauty and self-awareness in the everyday that most of us only see a rare few times in our lives. In addition, the film is a complex, philosophical piece on people and the nature of love, talking about how life really isn't a fairy tale and that we don't always find love or happiness, but we have to move on and live our lives regardless. Thank you guys for listening and watching this review. I certainly am very biased toward this movie, but I definitely recommend to anyone who has never seen 5 centimeters per second to at least give it a chance. So anyways, my name is JcGreen, and I'll see you guys next time on day 5. Peace out, guys.